We can clap anytime we want to, remember? We've been liberated. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Bart Bean, and it's my privilege to serve as your worship associate today. We welcome whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey. As a home of liberal spirituality, we are grateful for the religious pluralism that expands our vision and deepens our understanding. Our principles remind us to honor reason and differences and to value and foster social justice, social action, and compassion. Welcome to Tapestry, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Last week, I thanked Cheris Jones for taking over for me when I went to Seattle with my wife to see our grandchildren, but I should have thanked Connie Purcell. Thank you, Connie, very much. Our minister, the Reverend Kent Doss, is not in the pulpit today. He will return in September. Until he returns, we have wonderful speakers to guide us on our journey, such as today, when we have the privilege of welcoming as our guest speakers Ian Reed, Glenn Pascall, and Jeff Gothard. As Unitarian Universalists, we all share a commitment to our 7 principles. Yet our own personal theological beliefs can differ wildly, as can the journeys that brought us to Tapestry. 3 Tapestrians will share their unique perspective on theology and how our liberal faith empowers them in their lives. Ian plans to speak from his own perspective about the incredible mystery, perpetuity, and seamlessness of life and its energy in the world. Jeff Gothard will speak from an atheist perspective, and Glenn Pascall will speak from a theist perspective. If you are a Facebook user, be sure to check in and tell your friends what a wonderful congregation we are. Now, would you please take a moment to turn off your mobile phones or other devices so that we might not be disruptive to our worship time together. And again, I announce you may applaud any time you wish. We are a welcoming congregation, and we extend a warm greeting to any newcomers. Great, welcome. Glad you're here. Any other newcomers? Thank you for saying hello. If you are new, we invite you to stop by the greeters table or to pick up an informational packet. We invite everyone to please join us after the service for conversation and refreshments served on the patio. If you have been coming for a while but are not yet a member and feel you have found a spiritual home with us, please talk to the minister when he comes back or someone from the greeters table. Now, please extend a greeting to those sitting next to you. Service. But now it's time to proceed with the service. We have some exciting events coming up in Tapestry. You can find information about these on your order of service or also on our website. Let's see. You can also download the Tapestry app for your smartphone or tablet. It offers updated information, including events and worship services. We are a busy congregation with lots of activities. You can find more information about these, like I said. Our various groups and events reflect our vision of being a transformational home for liberal spirituality and a dynamic community leader in Orange County and beyond. Now Ian and Elisa Reed will light the chalice, our flaming chalice. What? Oh, good. It's just going to be you. Okay. Now Ian will light the flaming chalice. This is the central symbol of our Unitarian Universalist heritage. We gather once more around our sacred fire, much like the generations have since the dawn of time, to share story and song. We make holy this place through our commitment to gather. Today's pastoral joys, sorrows, and concerns include a message from Susan Deering. Please send healing thoughts to the universe for a friend undergoing brain surgery this week. Some very exciting news from Betsy Martin. Amazing, actually. The city of Laguna Woods has designated June as Gay Pride Month in the city. The attack in Orlando moving you. Now it's time for one of our new interns, Leah Keene, will now present A Time for All Ages, and not a stick written by Antoinette Portis. Will all those, our children and those young at heart, please come forward? I always feel like coming up because it says young at heart, and I feel that way. I always feel like I should come up.
Hi, guys. All right, so Not a Stick is our book for today. Hey, be careful with that stick. It's not a stick. Look where you're going with that stick. What stick? Watch where you point that stick. This is not a stick.
Oh, I painted that painting before.
Did you?
No.
Now what are you doing with that stick? It's not a stick. Don't trip on that stick. I'm telling you, it's not a stick. So, still standing around with that stick? This is not a stick. Okay, then what is it? It's my not a stick. All right, now it's time for your classes.
For our reading today, a big, tough samurai once went to see a little monk. "Monk," he barked, in a voice accustomed to instant obedience, "teach me about heaven and hell." The monk looked up at the mighty warrior and replied with utter disdain, "Teach you about heaven and hell? I couldn't teach you about anything. You're dumb, you're dirty, you're a disgrace, an embarrassment to the samurai class. Get out of my sight, I can't stand you." The samurai got furious. He shook, red in the face, speechless with rage. He pulled out his sword and prepared to slay the monk. Looking straight into the samurai's eye, the monk said softly, "That's hell." The samurai froze, realizing the compassion of the monk who had risked his life to show him hell. He put down his sword and fell to his knees, filled with gratitude. And the monk said softly, "And that is heaven." Today our special music is being performed by our own Melissa Sky Eagle and is called "Somewhere," arranged by Dino. We will now observe a moment of silent meditation. Oh, good, you're all still here. The sermon today will be Ian Reed first, followed by Jeff Gothard, and then Glenn Pascall. Ian?
Good morning. I think Bart Bean deserves some cheer for it's one of the wonderful things about Tapestry is getting to know our fellow members through the Worship Associate programs. We live by an atomistic or individualistic self-conception inherited from a long Western tradition. Atomism has its roots among Greek philosophers and secularists and renders the universe as composed of basic indivisible components or atoms. Within the Judeo-Christian tradition, death means an ultimate finality of our internal substance, leaving only the lifeless carapace. For example, Genesis 2:7, the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. Western political theorists such as Adam Smith, John Locke, and Thomas Hobbes place the individual as the basic unit of society. Think Smith's invisible hand of the market as a composite of each person's mostly greedy actions. In Western philosophy, René Descartes' cogito ergo sum, therefore I think, therefore I am, has served as proof of our own mind in self. Millennia of Western medical theory, stretching from Hippocrates, has also held the body to be the unit of analysis and separate from the mind or soul. And in our modern period, we view our skin to bag a complicated set of organs that work in machine-like concert to make our bodies function and our minds compute. If we cover our ears and blind our eyes, we can retreat into a fortress. Our Western view as atomistic individuals is paradigmatic and powerful. We may be part of a family or a community. We may be united in this morning in communion at Tapestry, but ultimately, it seems, the hard physical substance of the world keeps us physically apart from our neighbors. So I want to suggest that this broad conception of atomism diverts us from a more complicated understanding of ourselves and relation to everything around us. I don't think it allows us to fully appreciate how our life is deeply intermingles with others, creating a kind of web of energy and growth that I can't help or can't see as really anything less than divine. So first, let's take this idea that we're mostly disconnected or discrete physically. I think one way to think about this is by taking another deep breath. Can everyone just take a deep breath? Let's see if this works. Okay. So in the 2 or 3 seconds that it took you to inhale, thousands of microscopic particles entered your lungs. Dust create the rudderless and gently floating spacecraft for millions of colonies of fungal genera, such as Aspergillus, Cladosporium, and the thick jungle of bacteria, such as Ladococcus and Corneobacteria. In fact, scientists estimate that within each lungful of air, about 500 to 1,000 species of organisms are looking for opportunities to reproduce, and many find it within the warmth and moisture of our bodies. Microorganisms also live and multiply on our skin, and others form dense colonies in our mouths, stomachs, and intestines. When you sit perfectly still, you will still release about 100,000 particles per minute. And when you clap, your release might quintuple. You can't run from this fact, because if you do, millions of particles and billions of hitchhiking organisms will burst from your body, and you will become a comet of your living debris. Yuck. Don't we all feel like the saying yuck? But let's take a second to probe that emotional reaction. I think that we find this kind of disturbing, or maybe you embrace it, but we might find it disturbing because it upsets our notions of autonomy. It breaches our fortresses. Physically, we see ourselves as discrete, but fluidity is a better term to describe our composition and relations. We exchange physical parts of ourselves in every handshake, hug, or polite conversation whether with stranger or intimate partner. But it is not just within the physical world in which we seep, leak, and flow into one another. If we take all of the multiple and layered patterns of social ties that exist between all of us, we might better let go of this individual self view of ourselves, or myselves, and gain a more dynamic understanding of ourselves. Cogitamos ergo sumus. We think, therefore we are. Of course, a far more fluid and interconnected idea of reality has a long heritage in the East. A central tenet to Buddhism is praktika samuppada, or dependent origination. Daisaku Ikeda, the Buddhist leader and philosopher, writes, "Universality is a symbiotic order in which humanity, nature, and the cosmos coexist, and microcosm and macrocosm are fused in a single living entity. Nothing lives in isolation. All phenomena are mutually supported and related, forming a living cosmos." Now, this probably sounds familiar. The seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism is the respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all part. Buddhists and UUs often hold reality to be a dynamically interdependent and multi-causal process. All of that which we are made of, all that is around us, and even the abstractions of our minds subsist in a web of living interaction with no element or essence to be immutable or autonomous. This is crucial for our reasoning and action because, as Joanna Macy argues, we fabricate our bondage by misconstruing reality and clinging to what is by nature contingent and transient. I wonder if we also fabricate our bondage and suffering by considering ourselves as discrete and atomistic individuals in the context of our mortality and divinity. The lichen is a classic example of a composite organism because they grow when algae and cyanobacteria reproduce among the filaments of a fungus in a mutually beneficial way. But like lichen, humans are also composite organisms. For every single cell in the human body, there are about 10 microorganisms. If the living mass of mostly commensurate microbes were removed from an adult body, it would weigh several pounds. Our microbiomes help us digest our food, ward off pathogens, and may even help us be happy. We even have germs in our brains, serving a yet undiscovered purpose. We share, renew, or weaken our microbiomes within our immediate and intimate environment, and especially through our contact with the people and animals we live, eat, and sleep with. If we take praktika samuppada and the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism seriously, I think we must reconsider our mortality and divinity. And I'll end on this point. If you are a non-atomistic and non-individualistic composite organism like the lichen, continually shedding your skin, imbibing and inoculating microscopic life forms with most other living things, then we live deeply and seamlessly with life and the universe. So in this sense, I think that we are not so much as born, but rather emerge from the rich soup of life that self-perpetuates. It also may mean that we do not so much as die, but fold back into this profound and fluid vitality. If we are but a drop thrown briefly above a mighty river, what pulls that river? What breeze tenaciously pushes the particle of dust? What prevents anything but our complete entanglement with the universe? I can't offer proof, But anything so complex, so profound, so damnably beautiful seems to be nothing less, in my humble opinion, than divine.
So, if you ever want to be really humbled, speak right after Ian. That was great. So, I'm from the Bear Gothard clan here at Tapestry for 20 years or so. Should I wait for a second? Okay. And I'm here to talk about atheism. You may know me and my wife Lizzie, my mom, my amazing, brilliant children, Grace and Noah and Abby. I'm their dad, so I get to brag about them. Now for the atheist part. In case anyone hasn't researched this label for people, it means a person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of God or gods. Pretty simple, really. I think that we created gods in our own image because we're pretty ignorant in the early days, and we're also afraid of things that we didn't understand. So, and since I was a wee speck of a life on this planet, I've been an atheist. Here are my top 5 reasons for being a confirmed atheist. Number 1, nobody told me that I was required to believe in an all-knowing, eye-in-the-sky deity that was going to watch over my every move, protecting, detecting, and correcting me all my life. My parents pretty much trusted that I would discover my own way as I grew and I learned about the world. So they decided to be more like guardrails along the highway of life, keeping me from going way off track, but not telling me exactly where the highway was going to end. So I had to figure it out. From this experience, I learned to be cautious and not just believe the first thing that someone told me about anything. And I also found that many people were much more comfortable when they thought that they knew where the road ended. I, on the other hand, respected my parents' opinions and also their choice to allow me to think for myself. Before I could start believing in any gods, I had already begun to believe that the mystery of the universe was something to be trusted and respected and revered. But reason number 2, people were hypocrites sometimes. I lived in Long Island, New York as a youngster, and most of my neighbors were Christian, Catholic, white, lower middle class, white families, and the houses looked like Archie Bunker's house, all in the family. So it was pretty much a Christian world at that time in my neck of the woods. What I noticed was that the kids would all go to church, supposedly to learn about tolerance and how to love their fellow man, and a sort of what would Jesus do activity, I presumed. But I noticed that a curious cognitive dissonance was going on, because the same Christian believers in God would say mean, hateful, racist things to me and my little sister, like, go back where you came from, half-breed, or, because we were multiracial, and then we were an easy target for ignorant people that were angry that we even existed in the first place. They were always asking me, do you believe in God? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in God? It was a big issue in 3rd grade. To which I would invariably reply, I'm just not convinced yet. I'm doing research on that, and I will get back to you as soon as possible, which really just made him more angry at me. Today, we see all too often that fundamentalist beliefs in gods and God are leading people to hate-filled, horrific acts of violence. Every day, it seems like every single day, if you don't tune out the input from news and all these resources. Reason number 3, a free and responsible search. My parents decided that if we were going to go into any churches, they would have to be filled with reasonable people saying logical things and searching for the truth together in whatever ways they could find. So it narrowed it right down, they brought us to the Hollis Unitarian Church in Long Island, and we got to go to Sunday school like our neighbors did. But the teachers there did not tell us that we had to believe anything. Instead, they told us that we would have to find out what resonated in our own souls and what felt like true purpose for us to be doing on earth with our lives. And we had to learn to customize our own religious experience, and they didn't leave us out in the cold completely. They had materials and activities that helped us out and made us feel safe, whether we chose to believe in gods or not. That was a good thing. It seemed to me that what we actually did and thought in our heads was far more important than anything external that guided us or protected us from knowledge or harm, and we learned that we were not alone. I also learned that if I chose not to believe in any gods, I would not be banished to any fiery places where I would be burnt up over and over again for the rest of eternity. And that was a big relief when you're a kid, especially. Because you don't know, people tell you things. Reason 4, facts were overwhelming. Once I realized that I could choose my own path and revel in the mystery of the universe in multiple ways, and that there were a bunch of other kids just like me, which I didn't know. Sometimes you think you're the only kid. And as I grew up, they were also searching for answers. I started feeling positive about my quest, and I began to read what people had been writing about God, and also finding the contradictions that other religions were distributing around to their followers. For example, the whole thing about dinosaurs being only a few thousand years old, when science had shown that they lived so long before we ever showed up on this planet, or the way that only men could be in leadership roles in churches when there were just as many smart women around and they could easily handle things that guys were doing and maybe be even better at it because of their own varied skill sets. I learned some of that. It seemed more and more to me that churches were using God as a way to control everyone and tell them not to ask too many questions. So I began to think that there was like a big business that was selling eternal salvation to people, even though they couldn't prove that it was true. Everywhere I looked, science was more sensible than myth. Number 5, overwhelming natural beauty. This was a big reason, because it may be chaotic in some ways, but as I grew older, I began traveling around the earth a little bit more, and I discovered how perfect and amazing nature was. I went to Yosemite, I wandered quietly through redwood forests, and I just listened to their majestic silence and power. I went to the Laurentian Mountains in Quebec, I saw the Rockies in Colorado. This led me to believe there might be some sort of natural order of things, and that it was completely normal to not know some things. When I grew up and married Lizzie and had beautiful children of my own, it was clear to me that the only way the world gets better is when communities work together, raising healthy children and letting them know that they are the stewards of their planet and that they decide whether to use their incredible powers for good or do nothing and see the world just crumble and fall apart. We are also responsible for teaching them to trust in the mystery of the universe, because that is our origin and the place we're bound to return. We are made of stardust, and that's okay. That's fine. In closing, I don't want to give the impression that I'm right about everything I've discovered along my journey, or that it's my way or the highway, because it's not. Everyone must choose their own path, and mine has no gods, heavens, or hells, only people loving and helping each other here on earth now, today. Yours may have one or many gods, and that may be exactly right for you. This is why we're UUs, so we can all search together for answers, and we'll all be right. So, thanks for listening.
Well, the parallels in the belief system are as striking as the different ways of expressing it. I'm a mystery of the universe kind of guy. We all believe in the 7 principles, which are about human solidarity. And it is a privilege to join today's This I Believe sharing. I'm Glenn Pascall. I was asked to present the theist point of view, and I'm glad not to be labeled a believer who has faith in things unseen, because what I will share with you today is based entirely on experiences. You can dismiss me as delusional, or you can consider new possibilities. You might expect a theist to take a conservative point of view, but what I will offer today is radical. That said, I'd like to start with the thought that most guides me, which all Unitarians share. I'm here to become the best me I can. This is different for each of us. It means achieving the essence of who we really are. But I can imagine no better definition of living that than the 7 UU principles. And now I invite you to join me on a journey to another level of reality. Go back in time to a December night 50 years ago, 6 months after I graduated from college. On this cold night, the phone rang. A college classmate was calling me to say that our classmate Jenny was returning to LA from a ski trip, and her car broke down, so she hitched a ride with an elderly couple who stalled their car on the railroad tracks where they were hit by a train. Everyone was killed. I went to bed that night in a troubled state of mind, and at 2 a.m. woke to find I had taken God into court and was asking how such a great person as Jenny could be taken so soon while others lived into their 80s. As I accused God of wrongdoing, my body was lifted off the bed and rotated a full turn. I knew nothing of out-of-body experiences, but found myself looking down on the empty bed from a corner of the ceiling. At that moment, Jenny's voice came to me, not in normal audio, but as a presence. She said, "If only you knew how beautiful it was out here, you wouldn't want to stay where you are." After these words were spoken, my body was deposited back on the bed. I'd been given a reply to my interrogation of God's intentions. Move forward 28 years in time to 1992. I am 600 feet above Seattle in the Space Needle, having dinner with my good friend Mary Alice. We're both from LA, and tonight is a farewell before I move to Virginia. Somehow we get on to the fact that we both believe in unusual experiences, so I decide to tell about Jenny. As I describe the details, Mary Alice's eyes get wider and her expression more intense. Finally, she asks, "What was this woman's name?" And I replied, "Jenny Glass." Mary Alice says, "Jenny Glass was my best friend in Sierra Madre High School, and her family was devastated by her death." Mary Alice and I express amazement that with 6 million people in LA County when all this happened, she and I are so connected to it. And I've told this story before at Tapestry with co-presenters Linda and Julia, and they either knew Jenny or attended her funeral in each case. A further incredible coincidence, she was not a famous person, and we're all in a county of 6 million. I did move to Virginia, and on Thanksgiving Eve, I sat down to read I and Thou by Martin Buber. I'd just taken the book on a trip to Seattle, and a friend there asked if I'd read it, which was an amazing coincidence because she didn't know I had it with me. So when I got back, I turned to the book as soon as I was home. For the first 30 pages, I couldn't make head nor tails of anything. And then suddenly, everything came into focus. As I read, I was transported into a realm of pure bliss and oneness with all that exists. This is known as a mystical experience. The most famous expression of it is by the French philosopher Blaise Pascal. For him, it lasted half an hour. For me, it went on into the night 4 or 5 hours. These two experiences took me to the other side of reality. They removed my fear of leaving the earth and made it clear that the hard part is deciding what to do with my life. Next topic, miracles. Strange as it seems, biblical scholars say the easiest part of Jesus' life to confirm is the miracles. Here's my miracle story. When I was 30 years old, I took a trip to the remote backcountry of the Uinta Mountains in Utah. I left the highway and drove 35 miles on a gravel road through an Indian reservation to a campground. There were no other cars and no tickets visible in the see-through payment slots at each campsite. I was alone. I opened the trunk, took out a sleeping bag, and slammed the trunk shut. In a flash, I realized my car keys were locked inside. I tried picking the trunk lock with no success. Then I pulled the back seat of the car loose from the trunk wall. No success. I was looking at a solid steel plate. Then I looked down at the car floor where the back seat had been. All by itself, there was a shiny trunk key that had been left when the car was built, or what? I chose gratitude. The framework of these experiences implies a seamless existence between the visible world and another realm, and of a higher intelligence that intends good for us. This spiritual system functions even better if we add one more ingredient: reincarnation. When I was 12 years old, I had a long, involved dream that I was a diplomat in Czechoslovakia, desperately trying to prevent the Germans from taking over my country. At the end of the dream, I was running across an open field, and a German troop train was passing. I woke up as a German soldier leveled his rifle at me from the window of the train. When I was 39 years old, there was a party for a fellow worker who was leaving and taking a trip to New Zealand. I gave her a farewell hug and had the uncanny feeling I could see her spirit. This was so powerful that I contacted Kate and persuaded her to return to the U.S. We met in LA and went to dinner. As we sat together, everything changed. Each other's faces as we saw them, and even the tablecloth. 3 nights later, she had a dream in which she saw 3 coffins with a German soldier standing over them, pointing his rifle. She and I married. This may not have been wise, given that Kate was a devout Episcopalian from the mountain country of Appalachia who took communion every week to wash away her sins, while I was a California boy getting into Buddhism and Hinduism. The marriage didn't last. But to this day, Kate and I both believe we were married in a past life. Consider reincarnation for a moment. It goes a long way to explain huge differences in people's life situations. That's sometimes called karma. But the crucial point is this: we are called upon not to judge anyone for their circumstances, but to try our best to help. Judgments are playing God and are bad karma. Compassion is taking the path of Buddha and Jesus and is good karma. If we forget that rule, we will reap the consequences. These experiences have shaped my view of ultimate reality. The results in terms of behavior and fellowship bring me out at exactly the same place as an ethical atheist. The only difference is I have the choice of wondering if I was delusional or feeling gratitude toward a benevolent intelligence guiding a level of reality above what we normally call reality. Thank you for considering the possibilities.
Oh, that was excellent. Thank you very much. Today is Generosity Sunday. This means that we would be splitting our undesignated plate collection with a worthy cause. This month we have chosen the Ministerial Credentialing Office's Scholarship Fund that supports students enrolled in a Master of Divinity degree program leading to fellowship as a UU minister. You can make a difference in a future minister's life. And if you want to, in other words, so if it's undesignated, if it's not written to Tapestry, it will go to the Ministerial Credentialing Office like cash. If you want to write a check, you should make it out to UUA, but note the Ministerial MFC, which is something about ministerial property. Extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, knowing the light remains in the warmth and compassion of our hearts until we are together again. Our closing words are by James Morrison. Thank you, Jeff. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your glorious light with the world. Shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be.